I want to go over the explicit mode. So usually when you write your script, you want to use the explicit mode so you have more control of your scripts. And the explicit mode, you have this syntax here. Okay, so you have the begin trend or begin transaction here, followed by a name of a transaction. All these are optional. All these here are optional. You don't have to put them here if you don't want to, but you can if you want to, because sometimes you have a group of nested transactions. You can nest one inside the other. So when that happens, you need to know which one is it, right? So you can say transaction 1 or T2, or you can give it a name, so you can always reference that in your code. But usually just the begin trend, and then followed by your commands, and then at the end of that, you either commit it or you roll back. Okay, the commit means that if everything is good, then go ahead and then commit it to the database. Otherwise, just don't do anything to it. Okay, so usually if you want to use both of them, you put like an if block, right? If error is none, then go ahead and submit it. Otherwise, just roll back, undo everything. Okay, don't touch anything at all. So we have to begin here. Begin is you begin the transaction, and then the statements begin right at that point. And again, the commit is where you commit at the end. So let's go ahead and do some demos in here. I'm going to show you what that means between the begin trend and the also has to do with the locking system. So let's just go back here. I'm going to clear all these up, and we'll create a table for students. I got that already. I'm going to create another table here. Let's just say we create a table for courses. Give an ID such as CID. Same. Int primary key identity. And I want this to reference the student ID, right? So we could say SID of int type references the table students of the ID SID. So that's our foreign key, right? FK. And then we want to have the course title, maybe like varchar. We should put 100, and we have I put a comma over here. Course credits int, and then the grade will be a varchar of just 2, with a minus, and that's our second table. You can write there if like, I think for now it's okay. Okay, so I can create both of these. Just go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm going to insert some data to this table as well. So we'll have an insert statement here. Insert to the students. The values. The first is identity, so we omit that. The first name, the last name, Larry King. The grade, as you said, he's in the 12th grade. Okay. And we'll do another one. Just going to copy this. Oh yeah, when we insert that statement, then we want to also insert into the table courses, and we'll use the identity, whatever that was, right, and add that into the student ID here. Okay, all at one time. So remember we did this before. We could do this like declare the SID as int, and this is coming from the identity, right? So the last insertion in that table of students, I'll grab that last ID and we'll assign that to the SID, and then we're going to go ahead and insert that into the courses table. The values is going to be, the first is the PK, so we can omit that. The second is the student ID, the variable name, and then followed by the course name. Let's say SQL, and the credits is 3, and the grade is, let's say he got A. Okay. So, and right above here, we want to show those table from the students, and also select from the courses, just to show that there's nothing in there, right? So you can highlight those and execute. So there's nothing in there. Okay. So now I'm going to add these two together. So when I run this, if no problem, then it should put the data into both tables. And we kind of did the last time with the trigger, kind of same thing, right? So we add the data there, and let's just see what's inside. So you see that both of those tables are filled with some data, as expected. I think the next thing I want to do is, because we're going to do some demos here, I want to also, delete the tables and recreate it again, because the table is going to grow really big. So I got the selection here. Instead of doing this every time, we could write a procedure to show this data, right? So I could say really quick in here, go into create a procedure, if you remember that. Just say show tables, or SP show tables, right? And then we begin, and then down here we'll say and it shows both tables. Okay. So if I create that right now, and then from now on, I just reference that SP show table. I can do that, or just go and highlight it, and then just run, right? It shows me both tables. I could also do a similar one. We'll do like a create procedure SP drop tables as begin, and then end. Here we just put drop table, and we'll drop all those students. Actually, I should drop the courses first, because the courses is the child. So course, otherwise it won't let me do it. And then students. I think I drop both in one line. Okay, so run that procedure. All right. So now I have that procedure. So next time I'm just going to click on it, drop, and then it drops them. If I drop it again, so there's no more, it doesn't exist anymore. If I want to show the tables, and then it's none, so I want to create. Oh well, I have to run both of these again. So you can do the same thing. I can say here, create proc call sp create tables as, and then begin, and then I just put end. Okay. And then just highlight. Oh, it doesn't like, because you need to go between each for now. But I can go ahead and then just create that procedure, and then now I have both. That's on. So now down here, I can now easily just access those here anywhere in my code, basically. Why don't we go and open a new query? Okay. And over here, it's going to show those. So I have the sp create tables, right? And I have the sp show tables and sp drop tables. We'll do one more, sp delete tables. Delete and drop are different. So let's go back, and right down here we can create a procedure to delete tables, right? As, and then I think you can't use delete like the drop. You have to do one at a time. So say delete the courses, and then delete students. Okay, and that is our procedure to delete. So execute that. So we have all the scripts we needed. So next time we want to run this again, just easier, so you don't have to highlight all those lines. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and cut it out and put into the other script over here. So let me see if I can close that. Go here. Oh, there. Let's see. Both. Can't well. Okay, so and that's because I didn't put the XC here. It doesn't like execute this. And I'll pick and choose which one I want to do later. So just to make sure they work, I can go and delete the table. Okay, it's doing something, and that is because of something called, I'm wondering, is it still running a transaction? Okay, let's try again. Okay. All right, so that's the insert. I don't have any of the tables anymore. I think I dropped them both. If I want to go back and show the tables, right, there's nothing there. Students is not there, it says. So I need to go and create, I can drop both tables. Just make sure it's clean. Good, both are not there. So I can go and create it. Create the tables. And then I can insert the data just to make sure they work. And I can go and show the tables. Okay, so it's working nicely. Okay, so if I keep running this, if I keep run this again, right, and if I show the table, you see that it shows up the students too, and it keeps adding those. Now, let me just put this down here so it executes at the same time. So when you turn off the transaction and the rollback, this is how this works. So let's just say I enter the data, and if it's all successful, then it will add the data to the table, and then it works, right? But if you put like begin here, begin trend, okay, and if I put down here, if I put rollback, just put rollback, you have to put rollback trend. If you don't want to, that's okay. That's rollback, it's understood. If I run this, and we'll show the table inside first. We'll show what's inside. Okay. And I'll put one more outside here so you can see the before and after. So in here, when I click and run this script, it shows me that I have the third student added. Okay, but I show the table before I issue the rollback. So the rollback does is that it will remove that third student. That means actually the last two, right? Yeah, just the third student. And just to show that it doesn't get inserted into the actual the database table, if I execute this table again, show table again, if it's correct, then that third student should not be there. Okay, as you can see, it didn't really register that record inside the table. Okay, it just basically undo everything back to where it was before. This is the before state, right? This is the before state. It has only two fields, and then the insertion here, even though everything has no errors, I insert that third student, and then I show the table, but then I roll back. So undo everything here. Whatever it is between lines 8 and all the way to line 11, 12, 11, it undo everything. Even though if I delete the data, it will undo everything back. It won't even delete the data. It shouldn't. So if I put this deletes in here, let's just say I show the table, and then I insert it, I show it, I delete it, okay, and I show it again to make sure that there's no more data in the table, right? If I roll it back, so if I execute that, you see that the first time it comes, it inserts the fourth student, okay, and then it insert that into the courses as well, but then it shows the tables. So it shows this, both tables. It deletes all the data, and it shows it again. There's no more data, right? But then it rolls back, so it undoes everything again. And if I run this again, all the data should still be there. Okay, so it didn't even do anything to the original data. So that's what the rollback does. Okay, and why would you do this? Well, you use that for many reasons. One is just to make sure your code work, right? Once they're working like they should be, then you can execute that and make that permanent. Otherwise, if you don't put that rollback, then you have to go back and undo everything yourself manually, and that can take you a lot of time. Okay, so that's what it is used for. One reason. Another is if there's an error, then you put that into a try catch, and then if there's an error, then don't do anything otherwise, go ahead and commit it. So I could say something like insert here, like let's see, I could put this in the try catch. So I can say begin try. I could run these. Okay. Let me just take this out. Let's just say that if I execute these two statements, and if they're successful, then go ahead and commit. Otherwise, I think I have to put a begin here. Yeah, begin here, and then SQL Server. Begin and try and catch. I think that's what it is. Okay. I could put a commit here. Let's see what this does. Okay. Begin try. Oh, I don't need that one here because it's already inside that catch. It's already in here. I should have put this way so you can have. Looks nicer. So there's no error, then go ahead and commit it. Otherwise, roll back. Okay, we'll see if that works. So it should be successful if there's no error in my syntax. Okay, so you can see that I have two inserted, both tables. And if I show the table results, you see that the 5th student's added. Number 5. Now let's just say I'm going to go ahead and put another, you know, a here. It's more than the 3 characters. 2 characters allowed. Okay. If that's an error, then it should not add a student information to the both tables because it failed. So the whole block here I'll have to pass in order to commit. Okay. So let's just run this again and execute. Okay, so 1 will affect it and the 0 affected. We'll see what the result looks like. Okay, so you see that it did not add the 6 students, even though it did, because there's an error in this line of code here. Okay, and so it did not commit. It rolls back to where it was before, which is the 5th. You can run this again, just to show that it didn't do anything to it. Okay, still 5. So that's the begin try. Begin trend and commit and roll back. Let's see what else I want to do here. Okay, one thing about locking. Can we lock a transaction? What that means is that if you are in a separate session, so this one here has a session number 52. This one is 53, right? And let me just float this. The other one is over here. So we'll show both of them side by side here. And where to go? Great, not very nice. The result back to this. All right. So because they're in a separate session, that means that these locking system is you can lock your tables or your actions, transactions, and so you will prevent those sessions from executing your code or running or accessing those data. And let me just show you by saying, if I were to run this, and let's just say that I only did will be a good example. Let me copy this again, put it down here, okay, and I'll remove the try here. Okay, let's just say I didn't put that and the commit or the rollback in here. And if I run this, okay, execute that. Would it be truncated? Oh, yeah, the error right here. Let me fix that error. Let's give it back to A. Execute this. Well, let me check the row count first. I want to check that trans count. We'll make sure that that's not more than 1. So I have 1 running. That means every time I run a transaction, I'm going to run this again. If I don't end it, if I don't commit or I don't roll back, it keeps counting. It keeps track of all those transaction counts. So this property here actually gives you the count. So now I have 2 pending. And it's kind of small down here, you can't see it, but so if I run this like multiple times, like this, you see that I have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 transactions because I don't have an ending. So it treats it like it's a nested transaction between all those executions until I terminate one of them, until I close it with either the rollback or with the commit. So if I issue that rollback, that means that even though I did it that many times, if I show the table, you'll see that results I added a lot of students here, right? But if I roll back, because I didn't issue the commit in here, you see that all those things I did not get saved inside the table at all, okay? So now once I put a rollback or commit, then it terminates all the transactions and the count will be back to 0. There's no more transactions waiting or executing, okay? So when you begin, you have to end it. If you don't end it, it's going to wait around until it ends it, okay? And that causes a problem. So when you have a transaction, it's being run like this. Let's just say I skip the rollback, execute, and it shows you that is 1. It's still running in this session. It's still active. So if I go back to the other tab over here, okay, down the bottom, and I'll issue this command, the sp show table. Okay, if I execute this command here, if I click execute, you see that it doesn't show me. I mean, there's only like a couple data inside the table. If you look at the bottom right, it says executing query, and it just keeps spinning forever, right? So what this happens is that this session here created a transaction, and it's still doing something because it did not close it, right? So it's still active, so therefore it locks both tables and from execution. So you cannot delete, you cannot view the data at all because it's been locked until it's been released. Okay, so until I issue a rollback, and then you see that already executed and it shows the data back here. So in a separate transaction, when you are in this way, then you want to set the isolation. So again, if I run this again without that same execution, the rollback, I'm on the same session, so I still be able to run and show my data, which is completely fine as long as I'm in the same local session. But if I jump over to a different section, then it doesn't work, right? You saw that. Again, if I run it, it will be just spinning until I close it. Okay, and to have it run, I can stop this by clicking the stop here. Then I can set the transaction isolation to, I forgot the syntax. It's a long syntax. If I go up here, it will show you. You set, not this one, that's a different one. Currency. Yeah, this one here. So I'm going to set isolation level, and we'll talk about the different levels here in a bit. Isolation level to read, uncommitted read. Okay. So you have a different type of isolation level, and I'll show what those are. This has to do with locks, your lock systems. If I run this command right now, okay, that mistyped it. Uncommit or read uncommitted, the other way around. Thinking about the uncommitted. Read uncommitted, it means that allows this session to read the data that has not been committed yet, right? So while I'm running this over here, as you can see, it's still running right now. If I execute, you see that it's still 1. It's not closed yet. Okay, because of that, I just showed you that if I don't execute this line yet, just go and show the table, I will just keep spinning. It will just keep spinning until I do something. So if I stop that first, and I just say, oh, for this session here, I'm going to allow it to read, mean request, right? Query all the uncommitted data. That means whatever I inserted here, I can see in the same session, right? I see that I had number 16. So I want to allow that as well on this session here. Then you have to set this command here to say, okay, set the level to read uncommitted data. Okay, so you run that once, and then now if I go and show, you see that I can see it too, right? So I can see it across different sessions as long as you set that to read uncommitted data.
Is that exclusive to that session?
Yes, exclusive to that session. So
Session,
no, it has its own unique session. Yeah. So that is what I see. So now if I go back and I run the rollback, just to make sure it's still there, right? Show count is still there. And I either commit or roll back. If I roll back, okay, that means that this number 16 should not be there. And if I run this again, you see that it's not there because it's not committed. Okay, I'm only reading the 8 uncommitted data. So this is what's called a dirty read. Okay, you can hear the term dirty read. That's what it means. You're reading any data that's not been committed yet. You see it, but it seems like it's there, but it's not there because it's not been committed. Okay. However, if I go back and put it here, instead of roll back, I put, let's just put over here, to commit. Let's do it again. If I execute, okay, and if I run this again, I see that the 17 is here, okay, but this is not committed yet until I said so. And now if I go ahead and commit, now it's permanent. Okay, once I do that, it's permanent, and I can verify that again. But just rerun this again, you'll see that 17 is now registered in the table. Okay, so either roll back or not. And this is one of the issues, the common issues between different people, let's say working on the same company or access the same data, the same table at the same time, right? So what it does is it allows you to either isolate the table, the row, or the entire database so that other people can't access it until you're done with your work, to prevent issues with like overwriting each other's data, right? Or I'm trying to read the data and I got number 17, but somebody else already deleted it, and I got some false data. So we get those data which is not there anymore, and those are called phantom data or phantom read. It's like a ghost, right? It's not there. So if you have a small group of people, it's not a big deal. But if you have a really large site like Amazon or eBay or Facebook, right? You have to really be careful because these can be overwritten, and also you can also lock the database from other people accessing, like I just did here. Okay, so it becomes a very important part when you deal with big data. Okay, so that's the isolation between each sessions.